on radio communications from air traffic controllers that indicated that these B-2s had left their base in Whiteman, Missouri, and were bound westward. We talked to officials who told us that, yes, the bombers were headed to Anderson Air Force Base in Guam, which is a place that they've deployed from previously, but that there were no further orders. So the question is, were these B-2s allowed to continue on towards Iran and striking some of these targets? Were they not used? What other kind of assets may have been used? One of the things that I think that has been lost here over the last week or so is that the United States has had a very strong military aerial presence in the region already. We knew that additional fighters and bombers had been surged into the area, but those aircraft are very capable of dropping bunker buster bombs themselves. The focus has been on, as what Ian talked about, this massive ordnance penetrator. That's that 30,000-pound bomb that only the B-2 can carry. But there are also lesser types of bunker busters, 2,000-pound bombs, 5,000-pound bombs, and those are capable of being carried by some of the more conventional aircraft in the U.S. Air Force's inventory. So the question is, were those lesser bunker busters used? Was the massive ordnance penetrator used? And what kind of aircraft were used? Now, as we move forward from this, another thing to look at is potential retaliation from Iran. That has been the main concern at the Pentagon all throughout the discussions as President Trump met with his national security team. Essentially, how do we ensure that if the United States does get involved, should we get involved, what kind of a retaliation could we face? And, of course, you've got 40,000 troops in the Middle East region. We're talking about Iraq, Syria, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. That's where American forces are. Some of those countries some of those bases are very close to Iran. And one of the things that we've seen over the past week is that, for example, at the Navy base in Bahrain, about a dozen small Navy craft left the harbor and were essentially still in territorial waters of Bahrain, essentially to protect them. We also saw that some of the 30 aircraft, most of them refueling aircraft at Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, had also left, presumably to protect them. They'd gone to other bases in the region. So the defensive posture that the Pentagon has been talking about for the past week, we saw that in play. And the concern is what happens if Iran is struck by United States aircraft? What happens in terms of retaliation? Does it happen? How quickly can it happen? And then what happens next?
And Louis, big picture on that, just broadening it out a bit more. Obviously, the region has changed dramatically with the toppling of the Assad regime in Syria, the weakening of the Houthis and Hamas and beyond. Who could potentially come to Iran's defense as an ally for them?
In Iraq and Syria, you have these proxy groups that have been greatly degraded over the last year or so, but they still maintain that capability. We have about 2,500 troops inside of Iraq. We have 1,500 inside Syria. And these are not big bases, but they're kind of exposed. Yes, they have some defensive measures. But if these groups were given the green light, we've already seen that they're capable of launching drones and rocket attacks on these bases. But if they're given the green light and go full bore, it could overwhelm potentially some of the defensive systems that they have there. We know that the Houthis, they had been going full bore in their region, attacking commercial shipping. That's why the United States went on this extensive and sustained air campaign recently. And then we know that the Houthis have been launching missiles from Yemen towards Israel, some of which have been intercepted. And so, and a reminder, there are U.S. Navy ships still in the Red Sea. There are Navy ships in the southern Arabian Sea off the coast of Yemen. So potentially these proxy groups could be involved. But the United States, again, we have to see how Iran retaliates, if they choose to retaliate, and whether they choose to actually broaden this by actually attacking some of the locations of some of those bases where U.S. bases are located, some of the countries, and what kind of restraints are going to be placed on them.
Yes, major questions about what happens next, what the U.S. role will be. But regardless of the future actions, right now, the United States is standing side by side with Israel. We are now in this war. And I want to go back to Tel Aviv now. Ian, panel, we are getting some information here, Ian, that Israel was notified in advance of this attack.